What's up, legends? Welcome back to the Democast. My name's Jack. I'm here with my co-host Alex. What's going on, man?
Mate, just struggling through an intro. It's been a while since we have had
Oh, it's on me. Hello.
a sticky intro. We have 1 week off and we just completely bomb it.
Yeah, third time it worked, but kind of. I stumbled, but whatever. We're
That's
rolling
cool.
with it. It kind of fits with the theme of this week's episode, but of imperfect action, which is not what the episode's called, but it's a good description for it. I guess it wasn't perfect, but we're doing it.
This is an exciting episode, right? This is 20? No. Top 1%, boy.
So this is episode 21 of the podcast. I was meant to be prepared with the actual a survey study. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. Someone did a study, I guess. Can't remember who it is. I would quote him if I could, but I can't. Anyway, so according to somebody on the internet, which is good, it's a good start. I wish everyone could see how hard you're laughing. To be in the top 1% of podcasts of all time, you need to release 21 episodes, and this is our 21st episode. So we're officially top 1% podcasts worldwide.
Well done. Proud of us. It has not been the smoothest of 21s, but no, it's been good though. It's been a lot more positive than what I expected, to be honest. I thought that we were going to just be talking amongst ourselves until episode 100 or something. But no, it's been quite good. I know that you've had some interactions of positive feedback. I don't think we've had any negative feedback. Not that you would tell me about anyway, because I would give negative feedback back.
We did get one negative comment quite a while ago when we were talking about how it took us a year to sit down in this room and record a podcast, and someone was talking smack on YouTube about it took you a year to sit in a room. Yeah, it did.
We're coming up onto our 1 year anniversary for it too. When was that? April.
I can't remember. I'm so terrible at dates. Anyway, on the bright side of this train wreck of an intro so far, I have the study here. So it was by Webbycaster. So they were saying that around, trying to read and speak at the same time is not a good idea. So 90% of podcasts do not survive past their third episode. And then 90% of those podcasts don't make it past episode 20, which means that if you make it to episode 21, you're in the top 1% of worldwide podcasters.
I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in the need to do more, should be doing more, and then also just the absolute burnout of it. It can be horrible at times. And I guess it's very easy to be on the outside looking in and being like, oh, you're just sitting down talking, you're just spinning yarns. Yeah, it still requires some mental aptitude to do so, though. It's not always just conversation isn't as organic when you have something you want to talk about, I guess. It's hard to dip, maybe this is just me, it's hard to dip opinions off stuff and not let my thought of the matter influence what is potentially actual fact. So that's been something. It's been, from my end, it's been quite a challenge to open up about things as well. I know that you may have experienced some of that as well.
Yeah, for a little bit. I think probably the biggest hurdle that I've had with the whole thing is quite often I'll come into these episodes and I'll have a pretty robust, I guess, understanding to myself of the concepts that I want to talk about, but actually being able to communicate that in an effective way that I guess it just comes out making sense. That's been the hardest part for me. I still don't think I'm a very effective communicator, but I've definitely gotten better at it.
I would love to put like episode 4 next to this or something. Especially that where we dipped our ramble and actually started to have conversations with it as well. I think what helps is that we don't talk about what we want to say on a matter to each other until it's at this point. So it keeps it a bit of some organic response in there as well, and less robotic.
Yeah, I think the few times that we have kind of like pre-discussed what we're going to talk about, and then we try and talk about it again on the episode, you go into like news reporter mode and you're like, on this episode of us sitting in the chairs, talking in the microphones.
It feels gross. Hey, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm also, if I've said it once, it's gone, man. It's not coming back. And unless I'm reading off a script, which would be the most janky thing to exist, it's not coming back. So I like the organic flow of it. Very much replicating that conversation at the skate park, conversation at the gym type thing, that like flow back and forth. I'm definitely keen on that. It has been a patience teacher for me, because Lord knows I don't have a lot of it. And what I do have of it, it burns quickly and fast. So it's been quite good for that of just relax a little bit, hey? Which has been handy. And you've copped my bullshit with that, of being like, we should do this, let's do this, like, and just being added about things. But I think that's needed. It has been a tool of hurry up and wait that I've needed to do. But it's also been quite a good like gravity for me to move towards when other things I've needed a distraction, for lack of a better term, or something to focus a little bit of time and energy on, because I wasn't happy with something else or something. So like it's been weirdly, I've never thought about this till right now. It's been a great tool, I think, for that, of both giving something back to me via myself from it.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's definitely been challenging. There's been I think moments for both of us where some of the behind the scenes shenanigans have been a bit taxing. Because it isn't as simple as, now it is as simple as we come in, sit down, press record, essentially, except it took us 3 times to get the intro done.
I think we are accustomed to the poo storm of what it was before, so this now feels much more mainstream. But it's still a setup. There's still maybe like a 40-minute setup, which again sounds, from what we're used to, that's so chill, of getting things right, lights, colors, sounds, like audios, how things move, having sequences run out. But that's where we slogged a little bit at the beginning of the new setup to make sure that it was more comfortable for us. We could have had an easier setup and a less fluent,
less streamlined system.
Very much so, yeah. I would be happy to, like... No, I wouldn't. Nope, ignore that.
I know what you were going to say. Never again. I think as well, it took, for me anyway, it kind of had to get to the point where I was pushed to my absolute limit of the capacity that I had available to do this. I was pushed all the way to that limit before it all broke down, and then we went, right, we need a more efficient system. But it's one of those cases where if it wasn't as hard as it was, we probably wouldn't be in a good of situation as we are now. Like that for lack of a better term, like the pain point of like how hard it got just to like actually get the episodes out, because recording wasn't too bad, but the behind the scenes that we had on the back end of that, where like editing, uploading, like that system just was not working. So, but if that had have been 75% as hard as it was, maybe it didn't push us over the line for this new setup.
Yeah, very much so. If it was the slightest bit of more comfort, yeah, I reckon we would have stayed in the storm. I think it definitely taught you and I to one, to speak to each other about some harder stuff, but also we had to put a bit of trust in each other because our roles now are reversed of what they were when we started. You had the whole setup. I had the media side of it. Wrong, because I'm horrible at that. And then so we switched it now after a conversation of like, this is too hard. And like, I'm not very good at social media stuff. Hey, like anyone that's seen my social media will know this. All my good stuff on it was done by you. And so we had that switch, had to allow a bit of like trust in there and also a bit of feedback from one another on it as well. But worked so much better for us now in how it works. But because I like to like play with things as well. Part of me wants to be like, what can we do next to this? What can we do next to that type thing? Even though it isn't painful now. So that's sort of I guess a privilege to be at of what can we do fun wise outside of that.
Yeah, and I guess it touches on a little bit some stuff that I've talked about already.
Stealing coffee. I just got dobbed in. I've been low key stealing coffee whilst Jack's been talking and trying to like hide away from the mic, but it just done me in. Sorry, Jack. Take it away.
You distracted me. I forgot what I was going to say now. This is not something that I've even talked to you about, but there was. Oh, it's back on you again.
Loves me today.
Yeah, stop breathing on the microphone.
Sorry. We're derailing now. Sorry, dude.
This is not even something that I have spoken to you about. Why does it keep switching you? There we go. But there was definitely, even though all of the DemoCast branding is something that we share, it's all based off of my regular demo branding. And there was a lot of like, it was difficult for me, and there was a lot of trust involved in kind of letting go of, even when you and Sarah built up like the outros and stuff for the how difficult it was for me to like let go of that branding and like kind of trust someone else to handle it. Even with like the logo on the intro and the outro and just all that stuff was like, that was a big deal for me. That was hard to let go of that control over the branding of it, I guess. Even though it is something that we share on this platform, it is still very closely tied into like the rest of my branding for my business and everything else.
Yeah, I 100% understand that. It was because it had always been something that I was like, I'm going to need to bring up at some point, because it was how this transpired in such a weird way. So it was most of my idea and push, but needed your branding and backing to come together to have this joint entity of like what at the time a stupid idea. And then a fresh sort of like a newish company at the point. And then you skyrocketed so much with Demo, and Demo leads this off from it. And then so everything that comes from this still has at some point of a reflection on your like personal branding of like Democast and Demo Media and so on from there. And so I was always concerned of how that because at some point you have to like relinquish some point of it. And I was like, how's that gonna go with there? I was like, well, this will be a fun conversation to have regardless, because I don't think we've ever had a bad conversation. We've definitely had tough ones that have had to go in there, but not anything like that we've been.
No, I think we're both like quite willing to, I guess, like work things out as well, and just be like, all right, we need to talk about this. Like, we need to sort it out. Like, we're both quite willing to, like, not try and hold rank on those things. I guess we're kind of pretty willing to just like discuss stuff. And in hindsight, I love how the outro of the videos turned out, and I love how the intro looks, and I'm pumped on all of it, and I'm stoked that like it all turned out the way it did. But that initial hurdle of like, all right, I actually have to let go of some of the control of this was pretty difficult. I with Sleeper, same, because I was like,
this conversation's coming, but how do we approach it? And it was like, we were literally walking past each other and you were like, this. And I was like, done. And then we were like, cool, move the fuck on. Oh, damn. Damn it.
You can't actually see the swear jar in the video, but it's still chock-a-block of IOUs.
It's proper empty because cash is such a weird, outdated concept. But yeah, so it was odd. And I would suggest anyone that is moving forward with like a joint venture with anyone, get some hard conversations out quick. Hey, like, I guess this was a bit of an unknown because we didn't expect, I can't mention this at the start, did not expect this one to go anywhere or for anyone to listen to it, which is weird on all your behalf, to be honest. So, so that was, I guess we didn't even think to have the conversation with that because monetary was never in there to begin with. Probably we weren't expecting it to do anything. So the reflection that it had on demo and then like I definitely did not see it switch into where I was on setup as well. So like the let go of that was obviously going to be a hard part to do. And you did sit in on it. You were like I don't, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I also had that conversation of like, this is like going to be hard for Jack type thing. So like we were sending proof after proof after proof type thing. Like sometimes I think there was someone at like midnight. It was like, check your phone. Yeah. Like, because I knew that you were going to have a say in it, not only because the stuff you do is good. So like you need to keep it to that pedigree as well. But like you're allowing two other people to do branding on your brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it was just like anyway, I've said the same thing 3 times in a row, but anyway, you got something to say?
You should say it for a 4th.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I guess for a little bit of context, the way that it kind of panned out initially was I just happened to have some audio gear. So it kind of just worked out that I did all of the like the actual physical setup because I had all the stuff and I had used like my own audio gear before. So it kind of made sense for me to just set it up and we used my camera and like the whole thing. So that kind of just made sense. But then it was like, well, I can't do every single thing ever. So then you kind of took on the social stuff. And then at one point we were kind of just like, why are we doing this backwards? Like you arguably have more or at least as much as knowledge as far as like the setup goes, and probably with this particular setup because it's much more of a like streaming, I get more of like a streaming based setup than what we were using before. Not that we actually stream the podcast, but that's essentially how it's set up, as if it's a live stream.
Sorry, we could do that technically now. We could do a full live podcast so easy.
That would be an absolute nightmare.
I don't reckon. I reckon that any more of a nightmare than what it is now. There is a 0 edit full raw that we do now anyway.
Yeah, but if we have a proper flare up, we can turn it off.
We could do a live Q&A with that.
Yeah, we could. But anyway, so we could. And we should actually do that, I reckon. We should do a Q&A. I reckon that'd be cool. There's a part of me that's scared that we would just be live and no one would show up.
But so same. The first Q&A we did, I was panicked about that. But that's what it has to be. Like at some point, no one's going to be there. At the next point, someone might be. But also, if we are out there doing stuff, people might be more inclined to interact with it. Interesting. That's going to be on my list of stuff for this year.
I think that'd be cool, actually. But yeah, like especially in this kind of setup that we have now, which is essentially a live streaming setup, but we just record instead of live streaming. Like you definitely have more knowledge in that world than I do, and basically everything that I do exists on social media. So like kind of makes so much more sense the way that we have it set up now.
It was so counterintuitive of how we did it before, but I think we were both just under the pump with our other stuff that it was, if it was just a game of Tetris. Can you fit this piece there? Sweet, it's yours now. Rather than like, what actually things do we enjoy and do we have any sort of concept of? Gooses.
But yeah, so I guess one of the bigger things that I guess I've learnt from just this experience in general and kind of reflecting on the fact that by publishing 21 episodes, that now puts us in the top 1% of podcasts ever, which is such a weird thing. But you don't necessarily have to be brilliant at what you're doing, because we're not brilliant at this, I can tell you that. But
Brilliant at what you do, one thing or anything. I know what you're about to say. That threw me off then so much. Please continue with the actual productive stuff.
So the point I'm trying to make is that you don't necessarily have to be brilliant or the world's best at whatever it is that you're trying to do. Just being consistent is what you need to do. And by just not quitting, you're already so many steps ahead of like 90% of other people. That thing that I read before said 90% of all podcasts don't make it past the 3rd episode. How do you expect to accomplish anything in less than 3 episodes? And that's 90% of people. You can outperform 90% of people to have ever started a podcast by doing 4 episodes.
Yeah, and it's like, for the most part, it's not that difficult. Yeah, there's just, I understand there's a slight little bit of a hurdle with it. And there's definitely like a fear factor and all that. Because I used to panic so much every time we would upload an episode. I'm like, oh, people are going to listen. That's so weird. Yeah, it used to real stress me out about that. Hey, but now I love it so much. It's heaped. And yeah, I'm just trying to think of at what point did I think, oh, maybe this is going to bomb at this point, or I just don't think we've had one. We've definitely been like, oh, we're taking some time off on this, which is sweet, is what it is. But it's so weird. We've said this multiple times. It's so weird that the things that people tell you to do to like make it very loose, but like, or that will help you or that like will be good for you actually work. So rude of them, hey. But like, yeah, it's, I guarantee you everyone has an example of when they were consistent with something and got better with it. This is not an exception. Anything is not an exception. I encourage more people to do this. Arguably, we know more interesting people than ourselves that could do great at this. Yeah, so like, it's just so interesting. The number of 3 episodes blows me away, because that's, do 3 of anything is stuff all.
But that's, you can apply that logic. Like, obviously I have the data in front of me that says like, this is specifically for podcasts. You can apply that logic to anything though. Like, how many people are like, oh, I'm going to do social media, or like, and then they post 3 times and they went, my post didn't do any good. So like, you did it 3 times. Do you like, you think people who play like in the NBA, do you think they like, I don't know, made 3 shots and went, oh, none of those went in, I'll just give up? How many millions of shots do you think people that play in the NBA have taken? More than 3. Like, if you quit at 3, you're done. Like, there's nothing to come from that.
Arguably, I think some of like our best learnings of all that bombed there, like it comes from those, like, yeah. Remember when we used to talk over each other heaps? There's so many examples of like, if you had just stopped, then nothing comes out of it. Yeah, it's such an easy step to be consistent of something. But I could name a few people of when like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then do it. Just do it. There is a streamer, I forget his name, but when he hit his first like million subscribers, he like went on a bit of a tangent. Was like, for a whole year he streamed to just his dad. His dad was the only person that watched him for a whole year. And then it was like 2 years later, he hit 1 million subscribers. That is nuts. There was a sewing channel that 3 months ago had their, like, we just hit 6,000 subscribers. And then and then just put up, I think it was like 2 nights ago, put up their 25,000 subscriber. Get stuffed, mate. That's sewing. Also pretty cool. But like anything can be, you can apply that to anything.
And there is so many examples of it. Like, even one that I enjoy quite a bit is like when toddlers are learning how to walk. Like, do you think they fell over a couple of times and then went, "Oh, I'm just not going to walk"? No, like you got to keep doing it. And I think so many people get stuck in this like perfectionism loop of, I can't start until it's perfect, but you can't be perfect until, like, you have to be imperfect to start, but I'm not going to start until I am perfect. Yes. And people get stuck in this like perpetual like revolving door of just not starting because but like it's with anything. It's like arguably we probably need to do 100 episodes before we'll be any good at this at all. If you want to do social media, you're probably going to have to do 100 videos before you post anything that's worth watching. But it's in that first 100 things that you do when no one cares. That's where you make all of your progress. And then when you get to the 101st thing and it pops off, it's not because that one video you made it is like all that. It's because of all the things you learnt over the first 100 when no one cared. And then all of a sudden people care because, you know, you've done it 100 times before and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, you create like a backlog of it as well, like especially like long form content. I think is a bit like this. The podcast, because it's still considered long form, I believe. Is that, yeah, people might not give a crap about this episode, but I know there's an episode before that like a lot of people cared about, and then they didn't care about the next one, but other people cared about the one that was, you know, 3 down from that. You create this library of things that multiple people can pick something out of that, rather than just that one. How are you going to make one thing, 3 things even, that 100 people are interested in? No, I'm not even interested in that, and I made it, you know, like. And so you create this, and that's it. It's just this snow. I wanted to say slow and snowball effect. Snowball, where like it builds momentum, because like you get little people everywhere, and you end up with this plethora of not only content, knowledge, and then like a following for some things. If this is something that you wanted to pursue, for sure, like. Massive. You build a name in it.
I think it's so important to have that library as well, because like whether it's social media, whether it's a podcast, whether it's anything that you do, whether it's a business that makes products, if you, for example, like stumble across a YouTube channel and you're like, oh, this video is a banger. And then you click on the channel and that's the only video. You're not going to subscribe. If you find a company that makes a product and you're like, this is sick, that's the only product they make, you're probably not going to be that interested. You might be like, is this sus? Like, why are they only doing this one thing? Or yeah, like same with like a social media profile. If you see a reel and you're like, oh, this is sick, go to the profile. That's the only thing they posted. It's probably not even theirs. Like, right? There's the catalog of like, there's a bit of social proof of like, yes, this one was a banger, but look at also, I've done the same thing 100 times before. I think people get real worried about, especially on social media, of posting the same thing more than once. Not even necessarily posting the exact same video more than once, which you can do, by the way. But people get so afraid of like, oh, but I already made a video like that. Look at all the people that you follow that are like your favorite creators. They make the same video again and again and again and again because the formula works. And people get so caught up on that. So, and that's where they get caught in that loop of like, you know, they've only released 3 podcasts or whatever the thing that they're releasing might be, so that they do it once and even if it works, they do it the first time and it works. And then they go, oh, but I can't do that again. It's got to be different. And then they try and reinvent the wheel again. And there's only so many times you can do that before you just burn out.
I feel like you get this concept as well of, all right, so that one got 20 views, the next one has to get 30 views, the next one has to get 40, and you're trying to like champ yourself each time. Man, some of them are gonna be shit. A lot of them are probably gonna be bad too. But yeah, you said it beautifully. It's like, oh, I like this person, I like how he rides. Well, all these clips are riding videos, so like, what's the difference? You know, or yeah, very much. So I always enjoy every year there'll be like the for OBS, for instance, right? The 10 best things this year for OBS from 2020, 2021, 2022. Like it's every year. It's the same thing that goes out. Or they'll do like monthly updates or so on from that. It's still it's an enjoyable like learning experience for it. And just yeah.
I have recently posted, purely just because in my personal life I've been busy, I've reposted videos on Instagram from Crankworks that I haven't even edited. They're just an old video that I've just reposted the exact same thing again, and they've like 10x to their views compared to the first time. And like no one who saw that video 6 months ago is going to see it again and probably even remember. Do you remember one reel you've watched today?
No. I wanted to say something stupid, but I can't even, because I can't remember anything that I've, no, nope.
So
Yeah.
if tomorrow, if you see the same reel get posted again, are you going to notice? Probably not, because you don't even remember that you've seen it before. So people get, I guess, a bit self-conscious about like their, I guess like their image that they have of themselves on social media, and they don't want to be seen as like, oh, just reposting the same thing over and over again. You'd be surprised how many creators do it, where if they don't have anything to post this week, or you know they've got to make 3 posts this week, but they've only got enough stuff for 2, they just repost some old stuff. And probably you have followers that you didn't have the first time you posted it, so half of your followers probably never saw it to begin with. And like, yeah, it actually just doesn't matter. You can repost the same thing over and over again. But like, people get so caught up in that perfectionism of like, but the next one has to be better. The next one has to be better. It has to do more views. It has to do more views every single time. And like, really, it's just a numbers game. It's like, how long can you continue to put out content? And how many pieces of content can you put out? There's a snowboarder that I really like, that I follow, and he's not like a professional snowboarder. He's just like a dude. I can't even remember his name. I can picture his videos immediately though. And he just has like he just wears a GoPro while he's snowboarding and like talks to himself. And every single video that he posts is the same. It's him snowboarding, talking to himself. They're all exactly the same. They're sick though, and I watch them every single time.
Do you think that that's potentially the difference of doing this for fun because you enjoy it, or doing this for an outcome?
I think you can repeat a process and still enjoy it.
Yeah, I would say that you repeat a process more because you enjoy it, rather than you want an outcome for it.
Oh, okay. I interpreted that backwards. So, yeah, I think so. I think that if you enjoy something, you're just going to continue to do it again and again and again because you enjoy it. Where if your purpose is, well, I'm going to post this video because I want it to do what I want it to get 100,000 views. I want to grow my following or whatever. You're going to put so much effort into that one piece of content, and then probably not really get the outcome. Like the amount of effort you put in versus the outcome that you got from that is probably there's going to be an imbalance. And then you're just not going to have the motivation to go and put that effort in again.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a quick way to burn out if you're like chasing the shot constantly, rather than just, again, old mate snowboarding, I bet just loves doing what he's doing. And it's, if you enjoy it, I feel like it flows a lot easier as well.
And there's much less friction at that point, which is something that I've talked a lot about since we've been back on the pod program. But yeah, the amount of like friction involved in the scenario where you're it's kind of a means to an end. It's like you're trying to create content to accomplish something, whether that is views or followers or whatever. You will continually make the process of creating the content will continually get harder and harder and harder, because you'll put all this effort into a single piece of content and it won't do that well. So then, for me at least, the thought process typically goes, well, I need to put more effort into the next one. And then, so the frequency of my posting reduces, because every single piece of content that I produce requires more effort than the previous one. Where if you remove all of that and go, I'm just going to post content that I enjoy to create, then your frequency increases like by infinite, essentially, because you're actually enjoying creating the thing. And then because your frequency increases by so much, your quality and the level of content that you're putting out increases way more than it would have ever if you put more effort into a single piece of content.
You ever heard the story about there's two pottery classes, and at the start of the year the teacher says to half the class, I want you to make the perfect pot. And then to the other side of the class, their goal is make as many pots as you can throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, when everyone handed in their pots, the group that were tasked to make the most pots obviously made a larger volume, but even as a standard, their quality was higher than the ones that were only there to chase a single. You can polish it each time you do it, even if you're only getting a fraction better at something each time you do it. If you've done it 100 times, that fraction adds up over that time. Absolutely. I feel like it's easy at the moment because we're talking about something that we're doing currently as we talk about it, but it applies to so much of what you do. Even like getting up, going for a walk sucks at the start of it. Weight loss sucks at the start of it. But the more you do it, even if you're just doing little bits at a time to motivate yourself and get out, and I very much so think that it helps you build this willpower of that's how you get around, that's how you do things, is being able to polish that 1% every time you do it, or sometimes not even 1%. Sometimes it's so little, but it's still something to go off.
I think a cool way to look at it, especially in terms of like fitness and stuff, it's almost like having the approach that it's like, okay, so I'm going to run a marathon, but I'm never going to run before that, because I'm putting all of my eggs in the marathon basket, and that's the only acceptable outcome, is me running a marathon. That will not happen. You will die. But if you go, all right, I'm going to run as far as I can today. If that's 500 meters, it's 500 meters. If it's a kilometer, it's a kilometer. But I'm just going to run as far as like my body is going to let me today. And then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And you just continually do that. And maybe you have targets of like, all right, sweet, today I can run 500 meters. Tomorrow I'm going to run 550 meters. The next day I'll run 600 meters. You will have the ability to run a marathon using that approach much quicker than if you cut all of that out and just try and run the marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, such like helpful concepts, but
it's almost like too obvious, and I think that's why people just fully miss that. And obviously, in the marathon, using the marathon as the analogy, you're like, oh yeah, of course. But that applies to everything, and that's where like the consistency comes from, and that's the whole purpose of this episode, is that like we didn't get to this point as early on as this is, 21 episodes in, we didn't get even this good at doing what we're doing by starting here. We started 20 episodes ago, and we've now done this we've probably done it 30 times, because there's plenty of episodes that didn't go out because they sucked. And like, some of the episodes that did go out suck as well. So you can imagine how bad the ones that didn't go out are. Alex is absolutely cacking himself.
Oh, I nearly had to mute my mic for that. Oh, man, did we make some horrible episodes? Yeah.
But we didn't start here, and we could have never have started here. And we're still so early on in this thing. Like, it's probably going to suck until we do 100 episodes or 200 episodes. Like, but we're not going to, we can't start at episode 100. You can't do that. You have to start at episode 1, and you have to suck at it. And it's the consistency that'll make you better, not the trying to be better. Obviously, there's some level of like, we try and refine things and we try and get better, but nothing outperforms the reps. You have to be able to do the reps to progress forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if there's anything to take from it, if you and I can do it,
yeah. Oh,
anyone can do it. Which is such a weird thing because you hear people say that and you're like, that's not true. And then you do it and you're like, all right, you win this round. Yeah. Yeah, very much so. I feel like you would have a sick quote for us today of all sorts.
I have a couple, actually.
Oh, rapid fire quotes. Oh, I got a quote, which was really weird. Actually, it's not anything to do with this episode. I'm going to shut up.
Okay. Well, you keep your quote to yourself then. I have a couple. One of them is a straight yoink from a Modern Wisdom podcast that I was listening to at work today. And it is, in the short term, your results are determined by your intensity. In the long term, your results are determined by your consistency.
Sick. I've nothing to say about that is going to keep me out of the swear jar. That's...
But he, you should just listen to the Modern Wisdom episode. I don't know what one it is. It's a recent one. But he basically said, if you try and trade the long-term consistency for short-term intensity, that intensity might get you a quick spike, but then you just crash and burn immediately. My second quote is, the fastest car is the first to crash. It's the long game.
For sure. And I'm not going to add anything better than that to it. I'm just going to shut my mouth. But yeah, my brain's doing heaps of stuff at the moment.
All right, cool. Well, on that note, are you good? We wrapping up?
Yeah, wrap me up because yes.
Okay, good.
Sorry,
you've lost the plot.
Hey? It's so easy and like scary and all that stuff all wrapped into one. I just want more people to do it, arguably. I want more people around us to do some stuff. I want more of everyone to do some shit because it's fun, it's empowering, it's super like rewarding. Having people like message you, come talk to you in the street about it, all sorts. Having people that once we were like, oh my God, that person's over there, be like, tell me when I can be there and I'll do it, which happened last night. Like it's weird how things have changed, all because we decided to record what we were saying 21 times.
Which is arguably, if you know us outside of this, that's probably the worst idea I've ever heard for us to sit down and record things that we have to say. But anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a share. It helps out us a whole bunch. We've been posting on the socials quite a bit more, trying to rattle out some social clips. So get amongst that. And yeah, you don't have anything else to say? Sweet.
God, no, please.
We'll catch you next time.
All right, love you.